Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this is like a continuation of the previous video, though we are using paper to cut this time around because I had to finish the dress and give it to the client. So this is simply how to cut a pencil skirt and a funnel sleeve, and trust me, this is beginner friendly. Yes, so let's get right into it. So first I'll rule a line, which is the starting point. Yeah, I'm using a pencil just to make it visible. Then I will mark 1 inch. So I'm going to minus 1 inch. Yeah, from the starting point line, starting line. That's like for my band. So every measurement I'm going to be taking is from that 1 inch. So I'll go ahead to mark my hip. So that starting point I marked will serve as the waistline. So I went ahead to mark my hip, which is 5. Mind you, this measurement will be very small, you get, because we're using a paper. So after that, I marked my knee and the skirt length, my knee line and the skirt length. That's the length of the skirt. Then I went ahead to use ruler to extend the lines. Same thing with the knee line and also the length of the skirt. That's the end point. So I'm labeling it WL, that's the waist line, the hip line, trying to make it very visible with the pencil, the hip line and also the knee line, and the full length of the skirt. So there we have it. This is the waistline, this is the hip line, this is the knee line, and this is the full length. So after that, I went ahead to divide my waist by 4. Whatever your waist is, your waist circumference, you divide it by 4. So for this, I'm using 5 as the waist. Then I added 1 inch rather, for that. So down to the hip line, you divide your hip circumference by 4 also. I'm using 8 for this. So you take it down to the knee. So you mark 6 inches. You're minusing 2 inches because whatever you have is a pencil skirt. Whatever you have at the hip line, you minus 2 inches and input it there. So 8 minus 2 is 6. So as to give it that pencil shape. Yeah, so I went ahead to make it visible, to chalk it very well with the pencil. So whatever you have at the knee line, you input it at the end of the skirt. It goes all the way down. Same thing you have at the knee line, you put it there at the end of the skirt. That's the full length, skirt length. So I went ahead to add 2 inches allowance, sewing allowance, all through the waistline, hip line, knee line, and the full length of the skirt. So after that, you go ahead to join the lines together all through what you've marked. You join them together. So I had to switch to the chalk to make it very visible. So you can use freehand. If you have a curve, you can use it. So you join the lines. This is going to look somehow or have a sharp edge because the measurement is not really accurate like that. So I had to like make a curve there just to remove the sharp edge and make it look like a real hip. Yeah, more like that. So you can see that's it for the skirt. Then you can go ahead to cut all through to the top. So you have your skirt. This is the front piece though. So we're going ahead to cut the back piece. So I'm just labeling it for you to see. That's the front piece and also the back piece. So now we're working with the back piece. So on the back piece, you'll mark 2 inches. So inches all the way through to the end. That's the zip. That also has a zip allowance. So go ahead to use your ruler to join the lines, make it a straight line. Make sure it's straight. Yeah, that's the zip allowance. So you just go ahead to place your front piece. Make sure it's on the line. Place your front piece on the back piece. Just like I've done here. Then you go ahead to trace it out. You just cut following the shape of the front piece. All through to the top. So there you have it. Then you go ahead to open the zip allowance part because that side is meant to be open. So you just open the cut all through. So you have it. That's the back piece and the front piece. So after measuring the armhole, we are using 12 for the armhole. You divide it by 2, which is 6. Then you add sewing allowance. It could be half an inch or 1 inch, but in this case I'll use 1 inch. So the 2 measurements you need 2 is your armhole circumference and also your sleeve length, the length of the sleeve. Armhole circumference and the length of the sleeve. So in this case, since it's the paper we are using, I think we should go for 15. It should not just exceed this, so as to contain. So the next thing to do is you divide your armhole circumference by 2. Remember I said we're using 12. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. So you just come here and mark 6. You can add the, I'll use half an inch for the sewing allowance. So you just mark 6.5 here. So I'm trying to make it very visible so that the camera can capture. So here, 6.5. You divide it by 2 plus your armhole. You divide it by 2 plus your sewing allowance. So from here you're going to come down by, let's say, 2 inches. I'm trying to minimize the measurement. Normally you're supposed to use 4 or 5 depending on how slim or chubby or fat you are. So for this context, I'll be using 2 inches. So you come down by 2 inches. You just mark it all through. So you just join the lines together like this. So after that, you just join from here to this 6.5 inches, the line here. That's the armhole circumference. So I just used chalk to make it more visible since like the line was faint. Here you go. So after that, you measure what you have here, this line here. You're going to divide it. You check for the midpoints. How to get it? You divide it by what you have by 2, or you can just flip your tape. What I have here is 7, so 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So you mark it here. Yeah. Here you can just go ahead to make like a curve because this is kind of straight, so you just blend it a little like this. Then you come down and blend this one to this place like this from the midpoint. Let me use the pencil. To just, this is the midpoint here, so you just to this place and you take this one down. So like this. Here you go. You can see the curve. This is coming like this. This is going like this. So from this armhole point here, from this point, you can just go ahead and extend. You're not going straight, slantly, depending on how wide you want it to be, how open. So you just, from this point here, so here you go. Your armhole is ready. Let me just make it more visible for you to see. You can see it's not straight. That's it. If you want to make maybe a style or an effect, you can just go ahead, maybe at the tip here, go like this, just like that. So here you go. You can go ahead to cut it. So you just notch the midpoint like this. So here you go. Here's your sleeve. Here straight, here slant. So that is it, guys. So if you don't want to leave the end of the sleeve plain, because I plan to do on the actual cloth, I did something. You can just make an effect like this. And you just cut this out. You be careful so as not to reduce the actual length. So if you're using lining or bias or anything to turn the tip down, you have to follow the shape of the sleeve. You can see this is it.